Well, a very good morning in case you're just joining us, but we have been on since 6 a.m. in the morning, and we are taking this to a notch higher, talking about the art of effective communication. And this morning I have to be very careful about how I go about my business, because I have an expert in studio who is going to shed more light on how you can be able to build your confidence and become a better communicator, become a better leader, be it in corporate, be it in just your social space. And I just want us to understand how this whole journey began. Have you ever heard of the Toastmasters? I would call it a movement. It's a global movement that we're just about to understand right now, that had its inroad right here in Kenya. Many clubs have been formulated around this. And I'm hosting this morning Emilia Siwingwa, the director of Toastmasters International's District 114, which has about 6 countries in the East African region. Thank you for creating time for us. And she also holds the distinguished Toastmaster Award, which I want to hear more about. Tell me a bit about this Toastmaster. Is it a club, or is it, let me call it a movement to be safe, because it is a global movement that seeks to do so much in the communication space. I want to understand the journey and how it started.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for the opportunity, first and foremost. Toastmasters has been around for 99 years. 99. Founded in 1924 by Dr. Ralph Smedley in the United States, Toastmasters is now in 144 different countries around the world, with thousands of clubs in different countries. And here in East Africa, we are in Burundi, Ethiopia, Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, and Uganda. I love how you call it a movement, because indeed it is a platform that provides opportunities for people around the world to become more confident when they speak, more confident in terms of thinking on their feet, and more efficient when it comes to leadership.
I want to know what inspired it. And by this, I want you to tell me a bit about the instances or areas where you have seen ineffective communication affect people, affect opportunities, or affect anything in the society. What would you say about the impact of ineffective communication?
Well, in its founding, Toastmasters was brought about by the fact that people would go to social gatherings and would be asked to speak and wouldn't quite know what to do, wouldn't quite know what to say. So the toast comes in delivering a toast in a social function. But it later evolved into helping people become more confident in the workplace, more confident in social spaces. The idea being, in the workplace, for instance, those who are able to package information effectively and communicate it to a variety of stakeholders are more capable of being able to get vertical advancement in work in terms of promotions, for example. And through Toastmasters, one is just able to get that level of confidence where you can speak in front of a large audience at a conference, or have a conversation with you, Safine, on TV.
Yeah. All right. So what do you say are some of the things that would make somebody not have that kind of ability to really express themselves in a confident, eloquent way? Because many people would want to do that. We have leaders who are very good when it comes to the leadership qualities. We have leaders in corporate space that are very good leaders, but when it comes to communicating and engaging with the people that they're in charge of, that's a very big problem. Or speaking in front of a crowd, it's still quite a big issue for many people. Why is it so?
People fear public speaking more than they fear death, according to statistics. So a lot of people, when confronted with communicating with people, whether it's one-on-one or with a larger audience, naturally have a phobia. What we do at Toastmasters is we allow people to learn how to be comfortable in communicating, in being able to know what to say, how to say it, so that it can effectively come across to an audience, be better understood, and therefore have impact.
So how do you do this? It's a global movement that didn't start here in our country, but I was just looking at how far it has gone and how it has stretched even just within our borders, Kenya. And I just wanted to understand how it works and how you have been able to really cascade what you do on a global level to the very local and basic level.
Well, Toastmasters has an interesting platform. We provide specialized programs, and we have 11 different pathways that people can actually select in terms of their learning. The paths are structured according to skill sets that you might be interested in learning, whether you want to master presentation, whether you want to become a more dynamic leader, whether you want to be someone who wants to learn how to infuse humor in how you engage. You are able to effectively learn 300 different competencies and skill sets to become more effective in how you learn. Now, how it's done through a 5-step process. The first step, you learn how to master the fundamentals. You learn how to structure a speech, whether it is a keynote address, whether it is impromptu speech. And then from there, you start to learn your leadership style, your communication style within the second step. In the third step, it becomes a little bit more focused. You now start to build skills. In the fourth step, you deepen those skills and start to master them. In the fifth and final step, you start to demonstrate your expertise. What happens is that you go through a series of projects through these various steps. And then you deliver speeches within a club setting that enable you to get peer feedback, peer support, so that you then are able to gain the confidence to apply what you learn in the real world, quote unquote. And
your flow of thoughts and how you break this down is also really, I can just get sort of like a glimpse of some of these things and how they are done. But I just want to understand, is it done like in a classroom setting, or how do you undergo the different stages that you've taken us through? And how long does it take for one to turn from a non-communicator to a very impressive communicator?
Excellent sets of questions. This is purely self-paced. How far you go in Toastmasters is up to the individual. However, it's experiential learning. So indeed, you would join a club. It could be close to your workplace. It could be close to where you live. You join a club, and once you're in the club setting, you are then assigned a mentor. The mentor walks along with you in the 5 different stages of the experiential learning. However, you access information through an online platform. You read through projects. You follow instructions in terms of particular exercises or activities within the project itself. And then you work with your mentor to develop a speech that you would then come into a club setting and deliver it in front of your club members. Within the club setting, you then get feedback through an evaluation. You learn the areas that you are excelling in, the areas you could improve upon, and the areas you could challenge yourself. For example, someone might say, use a little bit more vocal variation when you speak because you speak with a monotone. Or learn how to be more intentional with the use of your gestures. Or perhaps, how do you use your face? How about your posture when you're speaking?
So it's all important.
It's all important.
It's not just about what I say, but even what I do with myself while speaking.
Absolutely. If you can think about any leader who has inspired you or captivated you, and you think about how it was that they communicated their message, you will find that they've used different tools in so doing.
All right. I want you to run me through very quickly. Somebody could be watching us. They have the next big engagement. They are going to be addressing a crowd. It could be small or large, but you cannot underestimate any crowd. Take me through the process, the preparation, what they need to do while on that big stage, and what will make them really, capture that moment and utilize it.
Well, the very first project that any Toastmaster undergoes is called the Icebreaker Project. For me, I find that the basics, the absolute fundamentals are learned through that project. You learn that the basic structure of a speech comprises 3 sections. You need an introduction that tells your audience what you're going to tell them, a main body that now expands on the information that you told the audience you would tell them, and a conclusion that perfectly summarizes that. You learn the basic structure of that speech. You learn things like the power of 3, how to help your audience remember what it is that you're going to say. Through the Icebreaker Project, you're also taught things like how to practice before you deliver that speech. Do you do it in front of a mirror? You can record yourself. You can bring a test audience in front of you and practice your speech. You also learn breathing techniques, how to calm yourself down before you actually address the audience. And I find that when people commit themselves to the Icebreaker Project, the rest of their Toastmasters journey is simply downhill from there. To this day, even as a distinguished Toastmaster, I still rely on the fundamentals that I learned in the Icebreaker Project. Simply the structure of a speech, how to compose myself, and how to be more effective as I engage my audience.
When you look at impressive speakers like the late Nelson Mandela, the former president of the US, Barack Obama, and I can go on and on about who else has inspired me when it comes to public speaking. Do they just wake up and speak? Or there is something that happens before they get to that stage? I want to understand more about the preparation and what it takes to become, what they are while they are addressing the public.
Well, the wonderful thing about Toastmasters is that you get a stage to practice on. And what I've come to learn, having been in Toastmasters now for 4 years, having gone through 6 different pathways experiences, is that once you understand the basic structure of a speech, and once you understand the subject matter, you can actually go in front of any audience even without having prepared your speech. But what Toastmasters teaches you are those fundamentals. How can you wake up in the morning and come in front of you and have a conversation which hasn't been written down, which you are not reading, but you're able to effectively engage your audience? And when you see the likes of a Barack Obama or the late Nelson Mandela, I always say a good leader is a reader. You can't give of yourself if you don't have something to give. You need to be an avid reader. You need to be someone who absorbs information. You should be a source of knowledge yourself, so that when you are called to speak, even on an impromptu stage, you're able to deliver a message that means something and will touch 1 or 2 people as you do so. So yes, there are 2 ways of doing this. You can get the written speech that is prepared, and at Toastmasters, we encourage that you practice it and you internalize it so that we're able to deliver it without having to read it. So you'll find that a Toastmaster can go on the world stage and deliver a speech without reading it through an internalization process. But once you become as seasoned as a Nelson Mandela or a Barack Obama, because you yourself are a fountain of knowledge, you're able to then structure your speeches effectively in front of any audience. If you were to give me 3 skills of a very good communicator that actually stand out for you, skills that everyone should aspire to have, what would those be? I think that any effective communicator must be somebody who has mastered interpersonal skills. I should be able to read your body language to see whether what I'm saying is resonating with you. So the ability to be able to understand your audience is critical as a first skill. The second is that when you exercise empathy, you then are able to be responsive to the cues that you're receiving from the person you're speaking with or the audience that you're delivering a speech to. And then lastly, I believe that it's always important to know your audience ahead of time and to know that you're going to deliver a message that has some kind of meaning to them. Whether you want to inspire them, whether you want to educate them, or whether it's simply giving them information, it's important. So first, know your audience, read their cues. There are social cues that you will see. There are facial expressions, body language. Are they slouched? Are they paying attention? Are they listening? Then understand how to exercise empathy as a leader, as a communicator, so that you're delivering a message that is effective to them. And then lastly, there needs to be some kind of a message that you're driving home.
Let's look at the opposite. What are those skills that actually work to you against you when you're trying to communicate, bad habits in communication that would actually break down the communication line between you and the people that you're addressing?
One of the things that I've come to learn through Toastmasters is the importance of active listening. You will often find that people are unable to communicate effectively because they're not listening to what the other person is saying or to what the audience is asking of them. And when you fail to listen actively, you will 100% of the time deliver the wrong message on that stage, wherever it might be. So the first thing that I think people do wrong is they don't actively listen. And what we do in a club setting, in addition to delivering speeches, we encourage our members to become active listeners through a variety of roles that we have in a club setting. The other thing that I think is a huge challenge is just that lack of preparedness. If you're not prepared and you don't know what you're doing, 100% of the time, you are going to miss the mark. And what we learn at Toastmasters is that being prepared is a big part of success in any setting. So even if I don't know what question I might receive, at least knowing that I'm going to address a specific audience on a specific issue matters. Being prepared enough to understand that will or might have the impact of whether or not you deliver the right or the wrong message. So preparedness is also key. But the other thing that I think people do wrong is sometimes there's a level of self-aggrandizement of, I know what I'm doing. But at Toastmasters, we learned that peer support is key. Don't go on any stage without consulting a mentor. Work with a coach so that you can strengthen certain skills. And we encourage an ecosystem. We have a community within a club setting, but even within what we call a district, where we can go to other Toastmasters to sharpen our skills. So never make the mistake of not preparing. Never make the mistake of not getting feedback from other people. And always make sure that you come prepared, knowing your audience.
I want to also speak about something. There are people who, should I say, are overconfident or sort of like overdo it, because sometimes many people believe that speaking effectively or becoming that impressive speaker is all about using the big vocabularies, bringing up history that you feel nobody in the room knows, and using examples that would make everybody see how smart you are.
Right.
Is that the way to go? Is that the way to leave a mark?
Absolutely not. I think that the people you've mentioned, especially Nelson Mandela, Barack Obama, if you really listen to what they're saying, they simplify the message. The people who have 100% lost their audience, the people who you're not really going to hear about today, are people who have used unnecessary grammar and vocabulary. A simple message is key, and that's why I said at Toastmasters we learn how to structure a speech simply. Tell your audience what it is that you plan on telling them through your introduction. Expand on that through your main body. Use the conclusion to remind your audience. Keep it short and simple. Get right to the point. Otherwise, you lose your audience. We see in different settings, whether it is in a classroom, whether it is in parliament, people nodding off. And if you keep it simple, you have a message, it's well structured, and well delivered. It's engaging. I'm using my variation in my tone. I'm using purposeful gestures. I'm communicating with you and looking you in the eyes. You're going to remain engaged, but keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Short and simple. I like that. You know, let's somebody is feeling like, is it just about those who have big platforms to address, or it's also an important skill for the ordinary social, settings, the common conversations we have on a day-to-day level? Is it important in that setting, or it's just reserved for the big stages and the big crowds that, probably leaders address on a day-to-day basis?
Absolutely not. In every setting that we're in, from the family to the workplace, to a social setting, to whether you're in your mosque or in your church, everywhere you go, you're communicating with people. And what we say at Toastmasters is we need to learn how to effectively engage in any setting. So it's not just about going in front of a group of people at a conference, or being at a press conference, or being on television. You need to be an effective communicator in any setting. This is why you find that Toastmasters is working with people like the Rotarians, who work actively in communities. They come to Toastmasters to learn how to be more effective in their communication abilities. Or the Lions, who do charitable work in different communities. They come to Toastmasters because they recognize that the art of communication needs practice, that it's learned. It's not innate. You are not born with it. You learn how to become more effective in communication. And so being at Toastmasters helps you get there. It is a process. And for those who commit to the process, they see change. Those who come in and don't put in the work won't see change. So to that, I want to say, you only go as far as you're committed to go. And because there is a fee in all of this, I always say to people, don't become a Toastmaster unless you really want to invest in yourself. But in addition to investing in yourself, you really want to make sure that you are desirous of having an impact to other people. What's the point of communicating effectively if you're going to keep it to yourself? You want to be able to communicate with other people in different settings. So yes, it matters whether you're doing it socially. In fact, we have projects that specifically help you become better at networking. We have projects that help you become more effective when you're in an interview. For a job, for example, you can practice the different skills and to get to the comfort level to be effective in an interview. We provide an array of structured learning programs that help you be comfortable in any type of setting. But yes, absolutely, any setting, you want to be able to communicate effectively.
So how do I start this? Somebody was asking, so where do I go?
Excellent question. You can find the information online at www.toastmasters.org. And when you go to that website, you can find a club. So you might want to pick a club near your workplace, or you want to pick a club that is close to where you live. Find a club and visit us. Now we are running hybrid meetings in many of our clubs. Some clubs are now meeting physically again post-pandemic. You decide the club that you want to visit us. Once you visit us, you can then decide, am I in a club that meets or suits my culture? Is this a good fit for Emilia? And if it's a good fit for me, then I can then decide to become a member. And membership is pretty simple. There's a $20 joining fee. And in addition to that, there's a $45 membership fee. So to become a member, there is a $65 payment. And obviously, you would then look at the local currency in the country that you're in to translate that to make that particular payment. And we pay the $45 once every 6 months.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. Fortunately, we've run out of time for this very important conversation, but thank you for the tips you've shared this morning. Just a glimpse of what is to be expected if you want to become a Toastmaster or if you are one already. And I was having this sit down together with Emilia Siwingwa, the director of Toastmasters International's District 114, and it captures 6 countries in East Africa. She's also an advocate of the High Court in Tanzania, and of course the founder of Ahadi, an NGO, and I can go on and on about her 20-year experience. And of course she was here this morning just to help us understand more about the art of effective communication. I believe you've gotten a tip or two that can help you improve in your social networking as you interact with your peers, your colleagues, or if you have that next big engagement where you're going to be addressing a big platform, then you know what you need to do in terms of preparation and how to deliver on that day. My name is Safina Chengoma. Thank you so much for creating time for us this morning. Willis Raburu is coming up next on the lifestyle segment, today talking about personal development. Look at that, just taking this a notch higher. Do stand by for that and much more. This is Daybreak.